and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is my feature author of the month of April, award winning and best selling author, no other than Miss Marcy Pusey.
Hello. Thanks for having me again.
Welcome back, Miss Marcy, and again, thank you so much for being my feature author of the month of April. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yes, Marcy Pusey. I'm a mama. I run a business from home, helping people to write their stories and get their stories into the world through a custom publishing company that I run, Mita Mare Ponte Press. I'm also a therapist, and so that's been a fun piece of helping authors tell their stories is that when challenges come up, I have a pretty strong awareness of what's happening in the brain and can help authors of all genres and all audiences sort of anticipate and then work through the different things that come up as they're working to tell their stories. So I get to do that with authors. Of course, I'm doing that in my own head with myself. Got two teenage kids and lots of just working on the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories we tell others. And I've been able to do that as an author of over 22 books and counting, and the TEDx stage a couple of times. And so, yeah, just seeing it as a calling and as a mission to help amplify voices and stories, just like you do here, Daniel. I mean,
Yes.
you're so wonderful to amplify and elevate stories that you can't tell because they're not yours, but someone else can. And together in our own ways, we help those stories reach more people. And so I love that about you, and that's something I love to do as well.
Indeed, Miss Marcy Pusey. Thank you so much for being you, entrepreneur, an author, a mom, and of course, a Christian.
Yeah.
So, what we gonna talk about today, Miss Marcy?
Yeah, we're going to talk about one of those books, The Abundance of Less, right here. I know it might
Yes.
be backwards for you guys. A social experiment of not buying anything new for 1 year. It's an award winning book and it's been best selling at different times in its history. And it's based on a true social experiment that I did 1 year of seeing if you can live in America, specifically in the United States, and not buy anything new. And spoiler alert, there is enough excess in the United States that one can live an entire year without buying anything brand new. So I chronicle that journey here, the things I learned about myself, about this country and excess, and wanted to pass that on and encourage people to be conscious consumers, not perfect, because that's really hard, but conscious and mindful.
Miss Marcy, how do you prepare mentally and practically for the social experiment?
Yeah, well, you mentioned that I'm a Christian, and that's kind of how the idea came to me, I believe, was I was just driving along and this thought plopped in my head of, "Huh, I wonder what it would be like to not buy anything new for an entire year." And I had toddlers and young children. We were fostering kids, adopting kids at the time. Uh, and so the moment that thought hit me, I thought, "Well, that doesn't feel like it came from me." And so as far as like preparing mentally and emotionally, I think because my experience with the idea felt like kind of a divine inspiration, that helped me to prepare for it because there was a little bit of excitement and intrigue and I guess even a kind of confidence like, oh, this is something that maybe I'm supposed to do for that year. And I like a good little adventure like that. So I talked my family into it. Hey, kids, for every holiday, your birthdays and
Yes.
Christmas and Easter and all the things, like, you're not gonna get anything new. We're gonna figure this out together, and it became a family adventure, but I think the prep was helpful and helped by the fact that it did feel like it came from outside of me.
The abundance of less. What was the hardest part about starting this journey?
Well, I think about starting the journey. Um, Probably all of the excitement and belief. Like, for sure, I thought that already we were people who were conscious consumers and aren't super materialistic or frivolous with our expenses. And, but there were still just moments. Like, there's one story I tell in here where my son was really sick. My toddler son was sick and miserable in his sickness. And so I went to the grocery store. We did get food. So it was really like non disposable items. I mean, we even had a
Yes.
kid's cloth diapers at one point, but it was like we can get things that like toilet paper. I'm going to keep buying toilet paper. New. But like all the other things, right? So I went to the grocery store to get him some crackers and some things to settle his tummy. And they had a bin of some Disney toys. There was a Woody Allen and a Buzz Lightyear, and he loved Woody at the time. He had boots like Woody. And I broke down in the middle of this year and bought him a Woody to help just comfort him with the crackers. And I think that was one of the challenges, was realizing like that I do make those decisions at times. And even in this year where like our decision was to not do that, like seeing my child sad and like suffering in whatever little sickness he had. He wasn't even there to ask for one. Like, it wasn't even under pressure. It was just, I think one of my love languages is gift giving, and I wanted to love him that way. And then looking back, I was like, it was really unnecessary to do it. But in the moment, my emotions, I gave in. There was only, I think that was the only time I gave in the whole year. My then husband gave in at a different point for something else. So it was just those kinds of challenges. You're like, oh man, I can break.
In the middle of experiment.
In the middle of the experiment.
Yes. So, Miss Marcy, how did this experiment affect your relationship with money and consumerism?
Yeah, it's actually had a lasting impact because for that entire year, well, this is a fun little tidbit. At the time when I started this, so this was 2009, 10 that I did the experiment. Did I put 10, 2010? We didn't have Facebook Marketplace. We didn't have Facebook groups. Like when there were groups, but not like they're used today. And so when I decided to do this, I really wanted to involve community. Like, hey, maybe I have something that someone else needs, and someone else might have something that I need. And I love that idea of community supporting each other rather than just going to buy the thing that we need. And so I created that. I one night I went to bed and I created a Facebook group. There were no buy and sell groups at the time that I knew of. We only had like Yahoo groups and Craigslist. But I thought, I'm already on Facebook. I know people there. I'm going to create a group and make it a place where we can share these things. And I did. And the next morning, I woke up to over 100 people in it who wanted the same thing already, just like overnight, and who right away began sharing things that they needed, or that and I was able to share what I had that I could offer, like whatever it was. And it was incredible to see how many people wanted that same thing, like the community piece, but also just to share what we have and see what other people have that we might need. Like one person's junk is another person's treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And I had people who weren't in my same city, but who saw what I did and they were like, well, I want one of those where I am. And so then they started one where they were. And then I moved to Germany and there was nothing. The people in my community were using a cork board in the local school to post things that they needed or were selling. And so I started a group on Facebook there too. Again, there were none that I knew of. So maybe I was the first one to do buy and sell groups on Facebook. And it's fun to see now a whole Facebook marketplace and people are using it like that. So in that way, I feel like I had a little piece of like the future of being able to have some community around these things, building on what existed before, right, with Yahoo groups and Craigslist. But then even during that year, it was one of the pieces of impact was meeting people. I'm more introverted in nature, and so I can feel awkward with people, or I have to really put myself into social situations. But it was a really beautiful thing to meet people who had something and that they were giving it away, and or be able to share what I had. Whereas normally I would just run to Target, buy it. I don't have to talk to anybody. Today I can just even check out without talking to anybody. And I got to hear stories of people and get to know them a little bit and then make connections between others. And so that has carried on in my life since that experiment. Um, I'm still very slow to just go buy things because I can. So I think being in that habit for that year has definitely lasted for me. And um, and then the piece that for me also felt spiritual was allowing God to meet my needs when I would normally just go meet my own need. Like, one of the things was that I wanted an immersion blender, and I couldn't find any anywhere. I love them. There's like this one soup I make, and I want to stick the blender in the soup, right? But otherwise, I have to like pour it in a blender. It was just a whole mess. And I would have just gone and bought one and taken care of myself or whatever. But the story that I tell in the book about how I did end up getting one through the community was such a God moment for me. It was like I got to see God care for me for something I don't need, right? It was just a desire I had. It was just this little thing, but the way that he brought one to me made me feel really cared for and seen, even in the little things. Whereas I would have missed that opportunity had I just gone and bought one. So that has stuck with me too. That sometimes I think we rob God or even of others of the opportunity to bless us or surprise us or delight us or care for us if we're just like, I'm going to go get it myself. And so that was another piece that has really lasted with me.
Miss Marcy, thank you for building the abundance of life. What creative solutions did you find for replacing or repairing things you needed?
Yeah, well, I think it's important that you ask that because I have friends who can see junk on the side of the road and immediately imagine everything that it could be and turn it into just these incredible upcycled things. And that's not me. When I see trash on the road, I see trash on the road. Like it's hard for me to see more than that. So I think it's important to say, like, I'm not that person who's like, oh man, I'm so good at making everything new again or in some way. That's hard for me. I need often other people to help me see something that I can't see. So I did have to be creative. And so we went to thrift stores and I was shocked at how many brand new things were donated to thrift stores, how many clothes still had tags on them from their original purchase or toys that were still new in their box. Like that was crazy for me. So in that regard, I thought I was being creative by being at a thrift store, but the things that people the abundance of things that people have sometimes are so much that they're giving away unused items. But the other thing that for me was creative was that I love to support the local artisan or small business or person. And so that was one exception. We were on a trip one day and there was a woman who was selling purses. She was there making them as she was selling them, and we were in another country. And my daughter, who knew our thing for the like, we're not buying anything new, asked if it qualified. Like, I know it's new, but she wanted to use her own money to support this woman who was creating something. And for me, that wasn't an exception. I think part of my heart with like, don't buy anything new is like these major manufactured things. But for someone else to create something, we included. And so there was a part that was like some of the creativity for me was that if somebody is making something new from what they have and selling that thing that we could use that. And so that wasn't like I'm not going on Etsy and having someone screen print a shirt. Like the shirt, exists like that I wouldn't have counted. But for something like this woman who is braiding, weaving together the elements of this purse, it wasn't like straw, but it was some kind of material like that, wicker maybe, I don't know. So that felt like just a value piece for me that I wanted to integrate into that year, that the only exception to a new thing was us making it or supporting someone else who was making something. So that was probably the extent of my creativity.
So in every rule, there's an exception, people.
Yeah.
So, Miss Marcy, how did the experiment influence your lifestyle or habits after the year ended?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like I said a little bit, I don't just go buy things because I need them. I'm far more slow to just get something because it feels like I need it or just because I can. I'm still very community oriented around sharing what I have and um, looking around me first before going to support like Walmart. So I think that has lasted with me, and psychologically too. The the experience of having less things. So the next year, so this year was um don't buy anything new. And then the next year, the challenge that came to me was get rid of half of my things, like just get rid of half of it. And we ended up, this felt like God too, because what I didn't know is by the end of that next year, we were moving across the country to Germany. And we would end up getting rid of about 90% of our things. And so those two kind of fed together really well of getting used to not buying new things and then having a lot less. And living in a space with less things, the noise of it for me goes way down. And I find way more comfort and peace and energy and yeah, those kinds of things in a space that has less. And so that's why this is the abundance of less. Like I found more abundance in my sense of peace and comfort and freedom and energy with less material things than I do when they're everywhere. And so that has stuck with me. Like I always want less than what I have.
Indeed. So much, Marcy. What advice would you give to someone curious about trying similar challenges?
Yeah. The advice I give is that it's okay to not be perfect. I think there's a learning in every moment. And so even though I was disappointed with myself later for giving in to get a toy for my son, or disappointed with my then husband later when he gave in and did what he did, like it was part of the learning. And we could just pick it up again from right there and keep moving forward. I think for a lot of people, if they can't do everything, they do nothing, right? So I have felt that way. Like, oh man, I don't want to buy anything from sweatshops or child labor, right? Or people who are not treated fairly or compensated fairly.
Yes.
And yet I feel like I can't possibly know for sure all of the places where that's happening. And so for where I do know it's happening, of course, I'm going to buy responsibly. But for some people, I think there's a mindset of, well, if I'm going to end up accidentally buying things from those places, I might as well just not bother trying. Or then you just have to go live in a hut off the grid somewhere and never touch anything that you didn't personally create and grow and whatever it might be. So the coming back to the advice there, I think it's just like it doesn't have to be that extreme. Like just do one thing, even if you're just doing one thing differently than you did before. I think that's tremendous, right? And so if you try an experiment like this, and you spend the year like 80% not buying anything new or even 20% buying less new things than you would have, to me that's progress. I think that if we shift at all towards greater health and wholeness and all of the things, like that's a win. And so see it that way. When you want to do better, it's okay to start with one small thing and do that thing.
Yes, Ms. Marcy, thank you for your advice. And what will be your short term and long term goals? Being an entrepreneur, being a mom, and of course, being an author.
Yeah, that's fun. Short term and long term goals. Short term goals, my son is graduating from high school in June. So short term is like get him launched and settled. He'll be moving back to Germany. And I will be following, my daughter and I will be following to be near him as he launches. So that's exciting. My daughter is turning 16 tomorrow as of this recording. So
Mm.
I've got like just this life stage that's a lot of fun, and the end is in sight for a lot of the ways that we've known living together. And um, but then of course our relationship goes on. That's going to continue. So short term, like, man, get these kids launched into the world in the most healthy, effective
Yes.
ways that I can. And I'm doing that as a single mama, and so there's a different level of uh, all the things. There's a different level of all the
Yes.
things, both the awareness and the pressure and um, the responsibility and all of those things come with it. So short term there, and then short and long term, I guess, business wise, is that I just want to keep helping people get their stories into the world. I genuinely feel called to that. And so I want that to be what I keep doing. And so the more that people know that this kind of support exists, that work like I do exists, the more they can experience it, and we can be part of getting those messages out there together. So I want to continue to build the business in such a way that we can help more and more people have that high quality, high touch journey, therapeutic journey, even sometimes.
Yes.
Uh, and even though it's a calling and a vision for me, it also has become the source of the bills that I pay. Like, not the source of my resources to pay the bills and make a living. And so I'd love for that to continue. It's been wonderful to have the flexibility to be really present with my kids as I'm raising them in this season of life, to work on my own schedule, and to know that our rent is paid, right? That we're provided for. So that would be my long-term goal, to continue to grow that and see that expand, and to see my kids grow and expand. And that's the gist of it right now.
Good luck for your goals,
Thank
Miss
you.
Marcy, and hoping for the best and success. Before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, book 101 review in its fifth season, people, comedy 101 in second season, and food 101 in its fifth season as well, geography 101 and love letters in third season, and my baby podcast mental health 101, movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in each first season. So please listen to them wherever you listen to your podcast. Miss Marcy, if readers take one thing away from the abundance of less, what should it be?
If you were to take one thing away from the abundance of less, it would be that there really is abundance with less. I know that's
Yes.
kind of silly, but I mean, I think it's appropriately named. That my experience on that journey was that I traded material things for greater, longer lasting things, like my mental health, my emotional health, my spiritual health, my physical health. Like, all of these things were impacted positively as a result of just bringing awareness and intentionality to what I bought, what I used, and allowed me to have a looser hold on what I own. So it was easier to give things away and release them to others who might need it. And so I want that for each person. I would love for them to take away the belief that that can be possible for them too. Starting with, again, whatever that small next or first step is, for you, to just take a step in the direction of abundance in the right things.
The abundance of love, Miss Marcy. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing to the world. And of course, my future author of the month of April, award winning and best selling author, Ms. Marcy Pusey. Can you please invite our listeners to support all your books, your business, or whatever projects that are you creating right now?
Yes, I mean, you're welcome to find my books on my website, marcypusey.com. They're also all on Amazon and the places where books are sold. And you can find me on Instagram at Marcy Marie. I'd love to connect. I do offer free strategy calls for people interested in getting their own stories into the world. Yeah, lots of ways to connect with me. And then watch Daniel's other podcast. I'm so impressed with all that you're doing and the ways that you're, again, amplifying voices and in all different categories of life. And so I'm excited about what you're doing, and I'm grateful that you've given me this month to come share with you and your listeners what I'm doing.
Yes, you are most welcome to come back to all of the podcasts that I'm creating. And please do book again another episode and let's talk about your imagination, your books, and your creation. So, people, let's support Miss Marcy Pusey because if you support her, more and more and more business to come, more and more books to come.
That's
So,
right.
Miss Marcy, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, likewise. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bodycam people, see you soon.